The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Pat Scott. Hey, Pat.
Hello there.
And Father Cory Sticha. Hey, Father Cory.
How's it going?
Folks, be sure to check out another show on the StarQuest Network that you are certain to enjoy called The Secrets of Movies and TV Shows. You can find that wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/secrets. So our main topic today is on wellness and health tracking tech. Wellness and health tracking is big business in technology. They want to help you. All these companies want to help you get healthier, healthier, fitter,
healthier, wealthier, and wise. Well, maybe not the wealthier, but
poorer, healthier, poorer after you buy all the tech.
Spend your money.
Yeah. And maybe more neurotic about all of the keeping track of your health. We'll talk about that in a bit. But the three areas I really wanted to focus on this time is on weight loss and nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So tech for that, on sleep tracking, and then on various medical monitoring apps and devices, just more general stuff to keep track of your various vitals. And so no surprise that we're going to talk about a lot of these devices like your smartwatch, your fitness tracker bands. Those sorts of things will come up. And so let's start with the weight loss and eating apps and devices. Now, you're not going to eat apps, but apps about eating and devices and nutrition. One of the things I have and use a lot is, and I've had for a long time, the Withings scale. Now, yes. They have a whole line of scales, smart scales, and some of them are wicked fancy. They do things like use electrical signal to measure your BMI and all that other stuff. Mine basically tells you how much you weigh, but it's connected to Wi-Fi, and it will put it in my my health app and keep track of my weight over time, and give me alerts if my weight is fluctuating and that sort of thing. And the nice thing is that it also, because everyone in my family weighs different things because we're all different ages and different genders, it can keep track of who's who. I'm not going to suddenly lose 50 pounds overnight, I hope. And so, that weight, that's me. And then, my sons and my wife and my daughters. My daughters are kind of close in age and in weight, so sometimes it gets confused. And so it'll ask, who was this? There's an app on your phone where it can do that. But general, it's a great device. I just pull it out every morning, step on it, put it back. It tells me the weight, and it helps me be mindful. And I think that's a big part of all of this health stuff is about being mindful about what your body is doing. And I think paying attention to your body, to your health, is half the battle. What do you think? Is it about this? Is it the data itself, or is it paying attention? That's the difference.
Well, and I have a Withings scale as well. I got it a couple years ago as kind of one of our insurance plan perks. You do your little self-evaluation and you get the scale, and it is nice. It's very nice. It does. I don't know if mine does the electrical impulses tell your BMI, or just I'm 6'2" and I weigh this much, therefore your BMI is X. The standard formula that they use to calculate that. It is nice. Actually, it's kind of nice. Mine, after it weighs you, it tells you how heavy you are and what your BMI is. Then it shows you the weather forecast. It'll be sunny and 70 today. Yeah. But they are very nice because you got the scale, and we'll talk later about how you integrate some of these apps into other apps, and Google's Health Connect will take the weight from Withings and put it like in the Fitbit app or the running apps and stuff like that. So all that stuff's in one place, and that really is nice. So that data helps. But I think the important thing with something like this is the data itself isn't the most important aspect, because you can get caught up in the data too easily. That's one thing I'd heard years ago is if you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to get in shape, don't get on the scale every day.
Don't obsess.
Don't look at the scale every day. Do it at least weekly.
Right.
Because what's going to happen is, okay, let's say you start a workout routine, you're lifting weights and you're doing a diet at the same time. You'll start to lose weight because you'll lose water weight. You'll lose, that quick weight you might lose. And, I'm doing great. Well, then you get the muscle tone starts kicking in and you might actually start gaining weight, but you're still losing mass, but you're still losing like around the waist.
Yeah.
But it's not showing on the scale because your muscle tone is starting to build. Muscle weighs more than fat. That's something, again, heard it like since I was in elementary school, when we were studying health. So the data is good, but it needs to be used to help you keep on track.
Right.
To keep doing the work you're doing and not be surprised when you get on the scale and suddenly I'm 2 pounds heavier. How am I 2 pounds heavier this week? Well, I just lifted a whole bunch of weights, or I just did some running. And so now my muscles building.
Salt.
Or ate too much salt. I'm holding water. Exactly.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, because I get on every day, and I notice every day. I ate too many. I ate a bunch of potato chips last night, and I lost 4 pounds overnight. I fasted, and I gained 6 pounds. And it could drive you crazy chasing the scale, And it's like no. It's like there's all kinds of reasons why you're fluctuating, and some people fluctuate more than other people. And you're right. You probably best just either looking at long-term trends over time, or don't get on the scale every day. That's probably even a healthier attitude.
And there is some lag between when you do the action and what it shows on the scale. So those potato chips, that bag of Lay's potato chips, isn't going to show the next morning.
Right.
It'll show a day or two later. And same thing with working out. It's not going to show the next day. It's after a day or two when your muscles have built themselves up.
Right. So a scale is probably the basic tool for wealth and healthiness and health and wellness. I'm just gonna get those mixed up. and if it connects to the health app in your either iOS or Google, and then it becomes part of your health data that is residing there. And as you do more of these things, a lot of this stuff can aggregate, and other apps can come in and use that data to tell you things about yourself. Now, like if you're trying to lose weight, one of the apps that you hear about all the time, that's one of the most popular ones, is called Lose It. And it's probably a previous pick of the week. I used it for a while myself, and there's a lot about it that it does a lot. All these apps do a ton of different things. And one of the things it does is it allows you to track your food. It obviously allows you to track your weight. It has community forums where you can talk to other people if that's a thing that you like. Water tracking. I mean, you can get really, really deep into it. And it connects to your devices. So it'll track your steps from your watch or health tracker, wristband. It'll track your weight from your scale. It'll also do food tracking. And that's the thing I wanted to do most, was I wanted to keep a food diary, because I've heard that if you were to write down every single thing that passes your lips every day, you would naturally eat less, because so many of us are mindless eaters. We just consume, and we're often eating while reading or watching a video or a show, or we just not paying attention. And so all this food goods consumed, we're not paying attention to it. If we actually had to write down exactly what we eat, you start to go, I'm eating a lot more than I thought, and I'm going to eat less. And the options within Lose It are very detailed. You can, every brand of hamburger at the grocery store is in there, all that stuff. But I found that I eat a lot of food we cook from scratch, and it became really tedious to enter every ingredient in. And that was one of the areas I had trouble. Have either of you used an app like this, like a food tracking app? MyFitnessPal is another one that a lot of people use. And what was your experience with it?
Well, it was similar to yours in a sense. The fact that I recorded it made me more aware. What I did on the preparing my own foods is I would look up a couple of versions of what I had made at home and just kind of do a swag at it. And so I would say, well, if we had lasagna tonight, I'll look up 2 different recipes or 2 different things for lasagna and do it in between. Or if I felt like I used healthier ingredients, I cut it a little bit. But I didn't try to do every ingredient because that I just couldn't.
Yeah, it's tedious.
I've done Weight Watchers, and it does help. It really does. I mean, Weight Watchers, there's a reason why Weight Watchers has been so successful. If you keep with the program, it will help you lose weight and will help you get in better shape, but you got to keep with the program.
I was just going to say, I've used the Weight Watcher app and I've used Lose It and a couple of others. And I think Lose It's the one I like the best in terms of the amount of things that it would look up for you and to keep track, but Weight Watchers was pretty good too, but I got tired of paying the cost.
Yeah, that's part of the problem is it does cost, $25 a month or whatever it is. But one thing the Weight Watchers app does allow you to do is you don't have to enter in the entire menu. If you can find a similar or not entire recipe, if you can find a similar recipe online that's got the nutrition information,
yep,
you can just enter that into the app, and that will cover the information you need. And that might be a better shortcut. You're making it at home, and you're probably, you're making, your grandmother's recipe from back in Italy or something like that. But I bet you can find a recipe that's close enough that it would be suitable. Like you said, judge it a little bit more. Oh, I'm using more salt than it says, or less salt, so then I can adjust that. Things like that.
Yeah.
Well, or that way you can plug it in. At least you've got a ballpark, and it's not exact, but it's close enough.
Right.
Yep.
Speaking of cost, so Lose It is $40 a year for the Lose It Premium, which gives you all the options. MyFitnessPal is more expensive. It's let's see, where is it? It's either $20 a month or $80 a year, which that's a big difference. I'm not sure why anybody would pay $20 a month.
You're only paying for 4 months.
Yeah, but
they had a pretty good database of foods too. I remember trying them for a while. And that was probably 8 or 10 years ago, though, or 8 years ago at this point.
Right. I heard there was a point where they got bought by another company, like Under Armour or something, and there was some issues with that transition. People weren't happy, but maybe that's worked out. There's another one, this article from CNN that will link that compares weight loss apps. There's one called My Net Diary Premium, which I've never heard of, but it's only $60 a year or $9 a month. So it kind of comes a little higher, but this article liked Lose It better. So that's good. And then also in the same area, this is something I've picked before, is as my pick of the week, an app called Zero Intermittent Fasting, or Zero Longevity is the name of the company, but it's the Zero Intermittent Fasting Tracker. And it's very simply it can do more than just track how your intermittent fasting, but the idea of intermittent fasting is you only eat between a certain period of time every day. Like you don't eat after, like you eat dinner and then from 7 o'clock at night, say, till noon the next day, or depending on what kind of intermittent fasting you do, or the next night's dinner at 4:30 or whatever, you don't eat. And what this does, it helps you track the time. And again, I think these sorts of things help with being aware and mindful. It's easy to kind of just say to yourself, oh yeah, I'm not going to eat till tomorrow, and not really think about it. But if you've got an app and it's tracking time, and at least this works for me. If I feel like if I eat something, I'm gonna have to go in and turn it off and say I ate, I broke my fast. It's like this weird accountability to the machine.
You're adding a conscience.
Exactly. and I mean, it helps. I mean, for some people that's not going to work. I mean, you don't care or whatever. You just do the thing. But for some people, this is helpful. It's a helpful aid. And I like that it has this thing where it says, hey, you're doing good. You've managed to fast 6 days in a row, and these so many hours without eating, and because you haven't eaten for 18 hours, this is what your body is doing. And it's got all these things that really help with keeping you aware of why you're doing this, and the fact that you can do it. So I really like that.
And of course, we got to put in the obligatory plug. Episode 21 of Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World for more on intermittent fasting.
Right.
It's a whole episode on it. Mysterious.fm
Very good episode.
21. That definitely. Yeah, Jimmy's the man on intermittent fasting. He got me convinced.
So does it give you a prompt that you can go get a candy bar now?
Well, it does prompt you that because you tell it how long you want to be fasting for, so it'll give you a warning. Hey, the fast is ending in such a time. It's like, start your engines, line up your snack or whatever. It doesn't do that, but so another thing that's really big, people are really big on these days, almost obsessive about, is sleep and sleep hygiene. They call it, probably because most of us don't get good sleep or get enough sleep. It's kind of amazing how many people are not sleeping well. I used to joke that it's amazing that America manages to operate with so many parents of young children on the roads every day. Because when I was a parent of a young child, I was dangerous on the roads. But so we're all looking to get a better night's sleep, and one of the things we think is going to help us are sleep tracking. Did we get enough REM sleep? How many times did you wake up? Are you snoring too much? And so we get sleep trackers. And the one I use is, again, from Withings. I got, although I think I got it a long time ago. The company has changed hands several times, but I think it was Nokia at one point. But it could be. Yeah, but it's the Withings sleep tracker, and it's a pad that just slides under your bed, and it connects via Bluetooth to your phone, and when you lay down, it senses that you're laying on the bed, and it tracks your movements. And by how you move, it knows when you're in deep sleep or light sleep, and it keeps track every night. And it will, for me, it tells me, the big thing is it tells me you got 7 hours sleep, you got 6 hours sleep, you got 8 hours sleep. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing a pretty good job of getting to bed and getting a decent night's sleep. And that's big for me. But what do you guys think about the obsession with tracking your sleep?
Well, and when I first started, it was a lot more obsessive, and now it's like I look at it a couple of times a month and say, oh yeah, it looks like I'm getting to, oh, wait a minute, I'm getting to bed later and later. I need to, and my app tells me, it's time to start shutting things down. And so that's a good reminder of, no, don't go in and do one more game. But I've gotten so that I don't pay attention to the minutia anymore. Because, for things like preventing diabetes, for heart issues, you do need enough sleep. So I feel like I need something, but not something so obsessive that I'm looking to see how many times I'm waking up. Now, if I look and see it, days of restless sleep, then I start saying, well, maybe there's something else going on there.
Yeah, and I'm one that I don't sleep the greatest. So, my sleep, even when I get a good, what should be a good night's sleep, get 8-9 hours of lights out time, I'll still end up waking up in the middle of the night anyways, and, sit there for an hour anyway, but, so something like this is good, to be able to see what I'm doing. Cause I know I'm a fairly light sleeper, and,
right.
Kind of be able to wear that. And of course, yeah, bad decisions of, I've got my Fitbit app set to say, it's 9:30. You really should start thinking about bed. And I swipe it away and stay up for another hour and a half.
Mine's set to 1 o'clock.
Night owls, night owls are a thing. Yeah. Well, the thing I worry about is obsessing about your sleep to the point where it's stress. Like,
right.
It's the opposite. It's doing the opposite of what we should be doing. You can. There's such a thing as too much information, and I've seen where people can get really obsessive about the data and getting stressed out about it and getting worse sleep because of it. So if all this information is making you stressed, get less information. Yeah.
Well, this is going back to using the data to help you, not getting obsessed by it. Not sleep. Look at the scale every day. Don't look at your sleep data every day. You
look at trends.
Yeah, because I know a lot of these apps like Fitbit, like Withings, like I'm sure the Apple app will show you sleep trends. It won't just show you this night you got this night you got this night you got this. And it's better to look at that trend of saying, okay, yeah, I know on Thursday I didn't do so well because I stayed out with friends the night before and had a few too many, or ate too much, or had this stress going on in my life, or whatever. But otherwise, the trends look good.
Yeah,
Right.
Apples will say something like, you've gotten 12 out of 14 days, you've met your sleep goal,
Yep.
and that's fine. That's what I want.
Yeah.
That's-
Yep, Fitbit does too. So
So if you really do want a lot more information, there are apps. There's this one called Rise Science, or the Rise Science Sleep Foundation. And I'll put a link in the show notes to the app. And this gives you all kinds of information. It talks about sleep debt and circadian rhythm, and you give it all kinds of information about you, and then it tracks your sleep debt, which is, if you don't get enough sleep every night, you're incurring a debt that has to be made up later on. Like, you have to get more sleep later. That's the idea of sleep debt. And so it is kind of obsessive, and I hesitate to recommend it unless you're someone who really needs to have this sort of information, because it can be unhelpful to get too much information. But this app uses other sleep trackers, so it'll either use your Apple Watch or your Fitbit or your Withings pad or whatever. There's a whole bunch of them out there, and it uses that information and then uses its proprietary algorithms and that sort of thing to come up with a personalized sleep tracking for you of how your sleep is going. So if that appeals to you, it's available anyway.
Yeah, I noticed that was not a separate device. It was just using your own devices, which I thought was an interesting approach.
Right. One of the things that Apple advertises and Fitbit does about wearing your device to sleep. You can wear your watch to sleep or wear your Fitbit to sleep. And
You've got a story.
Pat knows. I've told this story on the show before. I won't go into all the detail, but I did end up in the ER for wearing my Fitbit to sleep one night because I slept on it. Because I'm a belly sleeper with my hands above, under my head, and the Fitbit put pressure on a nerve in my head that made my whole face go numb. So I woke in the morning and I thought I was having a stroke. So I ended up in the ER for 24 hours until, they tried to stick me in an MRI and do all this other stuff. I didn't fit because my shoulders were too wide. So thank God, because I'm also claustrophobic. But until the neurologist says, "Do you sleep with your Fitbit on?" I'm like, "Yeah." "And how do you sleep?" And I showed him. And as I lifted my arm up to my head, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, no." We both realized exactly what had happened. I'd spent 24 hours in the hospital because I slept on my Fitbit. So all that said, I
wear mine to bed, and I'm a side sleeper, so it's never been a problem. My only problem is when it decides to wake up and shine a light and wakes Randy up.
Oh, there you go.
So now, if you want to wear something to bed and you don't want a big watch or wrist thing, there is a thing called the Oura Ring, Oura, and it's a ring, just goes on your finger, just like any other ring, but it's got sensors in it. And it will track things like your sleep and your blood pressure and all the other things that a watch or Fitbit can track. And but because it's small, like a ring, it's unobtrusive and it's much less noticeable. It's more expensive. It's I think it starts at $250, somewhere around there, $200. But there's also a monthly subscription to it as well, like $6 or $7 a month. So whereas with like a Apple Watch, yeah, it's like $350, but there's no monthly fee, and it does a lot more. It's got a screen on it. The Oura doesn't have a screen, so.
I just want to know if it will tell me my mood and track it like the old mood ring.
I mean,
I'm feeling purple
that
today. No.
But I did notice it was a lot more accurate than I had thought it might be. From what I was seeing on some of the reviews, it sounds like it has a good reputation for accuracy on the sleep stuff.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I've heard a lot of reviews that said good things, but it is a one-trick pony. It has no screen, so it's not going to do all the other things a phone could do, or even a Fitbit can do. Because a lot of Fitbits have screens now.
It can't show you the time.
Right.
Well, and the thing too with a lot of these, whether it is Fitbit or Apple Watch or the Aura, they're still not going to be as accurate as an actual sleep study where they hook you up to all kinds of sensors and everything. All these do well. I mean, you look at reviews of, there's one article that we've got Pat linked to here about Apple Watch versus Fitbit, and they're pretty similar, and
Really?
they use things like your oxygen levels and your heart rate and your body temperature and all these things that their sensors can do to give you basically a best guess. I mean, ultimately, it's a best guess of sleep. You could probably trick it to think you're asleep if you just leave your hand on steady for an hour or something like that.
I have had it tell me I was asleep when we were watching TV.
There you go.
Great sleep last week.
Are you sure you weren't sleeping watching?
I'm sure. I remember the movie.
Yeah, there you go.
That's usually me watching. I'm watching that. Your eyes are closed. I'm just resting my eyes.
We had our priest assembly this week, and there was one talk yesterday where I can guarantee you my watch said I was asleep.
On the
Not
Fitbit,
to say it was boring.
No, I fell asleep.
Right.
I dozed off.
No, on the Fitbit versus Apple Watch question, this one article that reviews them, compares them, it basically comes down to, if you're an Apple person, get an Apple Watch. If you're a Google Android person, get a Fitbit. I mean, they both do equally well, and they have all the features, and so you just whatever ecosystem you're in. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's just within a few minutes of each other, more or less, and
Yep. So the other category we want to talk about is the medical monitoring devices, and these are a little more specialized. But the one thing you want to do is you want to make sure when on either your iPhone or your Android phone, set up the health apps. You need to go in there and put in the basic data and information. Your age, your sex, your whatever
Height and
weight, at least starting, and then if you get a scale that can fill in whatever medical conditions. On iOS that has the medication tracker, which is fantastic, useful for me. It helps a lot to remind me to take my stuff. And then then as you add devices, they will ask for permissions to put data into the health app, the health vault on your phone. And then as you use other apps like say Lose It or other or sleep tracking apps, they'll ask for permission to look at that data. So that health app on your phone becomes a central repository and guardian of that information for you. So it pays to go in and look at those things and check them out. And all of that data will all be gathered together in that one place. And it's great because as you have more and more devices reporting information about you, there's more and more information that certain apps can use to kind of connect them together, your weight to your blood pressure and then at one point your doctor I've had my doctor, shown things to my doctor in my app and say, hey, this has been going on. What do you think of this? And she and I will have a discussion about it. And she takes it seriously because if you've ever watched an Apple keynote, these, watches are saving lives out there because they're, they're monitoring us. And it's true. I mean, they never before have so many people been monitored 24/7 by a medical device. So it's kind of amazing to think about.
And I had something happen today that I had not experienced before. My Apple Health app asked for me to give permission to connect to my Medicare account. So that it could because I'm on Medicare, I'm of that age. And it said that it could hook to those for the medical information that's coming in, the test results and all that. I have not done it yet. I'm still thinking about it because that part of me says, do I really want to do that? But if you're looking at health, that's one aspect that it could feed in your what procedures you've had, what vaccinations you've had. That's all data.
Yeah. And these weight loss apps and these physical fitness apps, these workout apps, they want that data because they can help you better tailor your plans of what you're doing.
Right.
And it is nice where, the Fitbit app isn't just the watch. And I know the Apple Watch app isn't, the Apple Health isn't just the Apple Watch. And it's nice because then when you do step on your withing scale, within a few minutes, it's in your Fitbit app. It's in your Apple Health app.
Right.
You use your sleep cycles. They go into your different apps and they're there, and it helps you really understand, what's going on with you. Again, don't let yourself get overwhelmed by the data because there is so much data, but this is data that can help you. And, especially with both watches, do blood oxygen levels. And
not
that's
real accurately though.
But accurately enough that if it's sitting at a certain level and it starts to drop,
right, you can see trends.
That's time to call the doctor.
Right.
That's time to call the doctor. And of course, you can get the connected, blood pressure clips that you clip on your finger, and those are more accurate. But it's still these are all tools that can help you. That if you do notice something changing dramatically, call the doctor. Get help, find out what's going on. And it might be, oh, well, your watch just died. Hopefully it might be good thing you called, because it will be you that'll be dying if you don't get this fixed.
Well, I could see where it could say, you need, it's time for your annual flu vaccine, or it's, based upon those medical records, it's time to schedule an appointment with your doctor to talk about cholesterol meds or whatever. It might be too intrusive for some people. As I say, I'm still haven't said yes, but I can see where it could be helpful as long as it's not misused.
Yeah. And I do believe other insurance companies have similar packages where you can use their insurance company app, and it will connect to this data too. So,
yep.
Right.
So some gadgets that work with it, some health monitoring gadgets. Withings has a blood pressure monitor, like a cuff, that will work with an app, their app, and it'll measure your blood pressure. There's another thing called the Cardia Mobile, and it's an ECG. Now, the Apple Watch has an ECG built in, but it's a very rudimentary one. In fact, they tell you this is just very basic, and you got to be careful. You shouldn't use it for diagnostic. If you think anything's wrong, call your doctor. The Cardia Mobile one is a little bit better. It's 2 points. The when you go to the doctor, I think they do like 9 points, 6 or 9 points, those different pads. At least the Cardia Mobile is 2. It's a little device that you put your thumbs on, and so it measures the electrical current through your body. And so it does that as well.
One of the Cardia models actually has 6 points.
Oh, good. Yeah. So
yeah,
probably
and
one of the more advanced ones.
Right. The other thing is that the reports that I had seen really said the Apple Watch ECG is like 99% equivalent to the other medical devices, that there is a little tiny bit of difference, but it's not as big as you would think.
Oh, wow. That's awesome to know.
Because every time I've got a Cardia as well. And so when I compare them, they're really the equivalent.
Right. And, with some of these things, I wouldn't necessarily just go out and get one myself. It's, you would do it because your doctor thinks, it's something you might want to have and keep track of. Or
you've got a history. Yeah.
Yeah. You can just go out and buy one, but you got to be careful not to get yourself worked up, like we were saying before, with all the data and overdoing it. So, so that's medical monitoring apps and devices. In fact, I could have brought up another one, but I'll save this for another time. There's a hearing one that will test your hearing and develop a hearing model. In fact, that might have been a previous pick of the week I made. It will create an audiogram that you can download into your iPhone, and so the iPhone itself will tailor the sound it produces in your headphones, whether it's AirPods or EarPods or whatever. It will tailor the sound for your particular hearing loss. We all have hearing loss as we get older. It's inevitable. Our hearing degrades. And, although my kids seem to have hearing loss because they never hear me when I talk to them.
I was going to say, must resist the, huh? Can't hear you.
Exactly. The what? But it'll tailor the audio it produces for your hearing loss, which is great. So it's really interesting.
I have some Soundcore headphones, and there's an app in there, the Soundcore, that does a hearing test. it too.
Mhm.
You know, it says,
Yep.
you know, tap this when you hear this tone, and then stop tapping when you can no longer hear it, and it gives you a second try, and then it adjusts the sound in the headphones to compensate for that too.
Pretty cool.
So
That's awesome.
also, there are, besides the Withings, I have an Omron blood pressure monitor that also talks Bluetooth to my phone,
okay.
and will update the health app as well.
Awesome. We'll get that into the links in the show notes.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that when I was looking at that.
No, I get that. I get that now to put in the show notes.
Yay!
Awesome.
Excellent.
So, great. So, and then we'll also have some links to some comparisons from The Verge and Wired, doing some rating of the best fitness trackers right now. Everything. None of the articles include the Apple Watch Series 9, which like literally just came out days ago as we record this, of course, because, but the Series 8 was good, and the Series 9 will be a little better, presumably. You can just, consider those to be the same thing for that purpose. But a lot of it is, we kind of actually live in a golden age of this sort of thing, where a lot of these articles say they're all good. So, here are the little differences, and you pick whichever little difference makes a difference to you.
Yeah, because like if you want something that's more outdoor friendly, you might want a Garmin instead of a Fitbit.
Yeah,
Garmin has been known for years for their outdoor GPS equipment. Well, they've been doing a lot of this fitness stuff as well. And it's a little more rugged than a Fitbit might be. Of course, iOS, you might be happier with an Apple Watch instead of a Fitbit or a Garmin.
Right.
Android, you might be happier with the Pixel Watch.
Yeah, I'd be happy with an Ultra, but
Yeah, the one thing none of these really do is blood pressure and glucose levels.
Glucose,
and that's going to be on the horizon.
That's the
at
holy
some
grail.
point.
There
Yeah.
are something like 45 million Americans with diabetes who, that's a big audience. And if you could do away with the pinprick things and just measure it through the skin on a constant basis, that would be a huge thing.
Of course, they do have the little, basically patch, but yeah,
Right.
It does, prick in, but then it stays on there and you use your phone to
Right,
scan
and-
it like you would with the other apps.
Yeah.
So,
Right, and I know that some of the my diabetic friends have a constant monitoring going on when they've because they have pretty
Right.
severe issues.
Right. But even type 2, there's people with type 2 who are using the patch, I know. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the thing you could do.
Okay,
but it would
good
be
to know.
nice if it could just read it through your wrist, on your watch. That would be, and you can imagine the difference when people can say, oh, I just ate some Oreos, look at my blood pressure, like my blood glucose, and how that will change the way people approach food and what they eat if they're seeing in real time what their body is doing to that. So, I mean, we've only just scratched the surface of health and wellness tech and how that's going to really change things. And you can see why companies like Apple are moving huge into this space, because to give them the benefit of the doubt that this isn't just about money, but about making a difference in the world. You can make a huge difference in the world with devices that can help make people healthier, for sure. So, if you have any health and wellness devices or tech or apps that you enjoy that you'd like to share with us, or any questions in this area, feel free to send us some feedback at technology@sqpn.com, and we'd love to share that on a future episode. But before we move on to our next segment, I do want to stop and take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Technology, including Patrick H., John E., Russell T., Martin P., and Hind DP. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Technology and all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So let's move on to some headlines. And the first headline is from Fortune magazine. And unfortunately, Fortune has a paywall. So I will also include a link to archive.ph in our show notes that will let you see the
Very
whole
good.
article. So that, you can enjoy some of this discussion. And basically let me see here. I'm just trying to find my link to that article. So okay, there it is. The headline is, "You're forgetting to cancel one of many subscriptions is big business. Study finds up to 200% sales boost from pure absent-mindedness." Now, the gist of the story is that so much is going to subscription models now. You're buying fewer things outright. You're subscribing to a lot more stuff. And what happens when you subscribe to things is we forget we've subscribed and we keep paying. This is like the old gym membership thing. You know, you said it for remember that old Friends episode where they wouldn't cancel the gym membership because they were intimidated by having
Columbia Records too.
Yeah, back in the day, they'd get 13 CDs for a penny. I don't think I actually ever bought the other CDs. In any case, this is big business. This is one of the reasons why they're doing it. They have found that companies make, 200% on, I'm trying to find where the exact number is. They've found that buyers' inattention can boost a business's revenue by as much as 200%. So basically, they're making 4 times as much money or is it 200%? Yeah, 100% is double. Yep. So 200% is quadruple, right? Or triple. Whatever.
A lot more money.
They're making 200%. They're making a lot more money. Math is not my thing, because people aren't canceling the subscriptions. There's a lack of friction. So until that card gets expired or something else happens, generally people will leave things running. You know, that they don't cancel. Now that's a maximum. They said anywhere from 14 to 200%, but it's still, they're making extra money they're making a lot of money off of people buying something they're not using. And that's a big deal. What do you think of this? Do you think you have a lot of, or any stuff that you're paying for that you're not using?
Well, true story. I was at a client's house 3 weeks ago and something came up. And we went through his list of subscriptions in the phone, starting there. And just those, he had $200, more than $200 worth of things that he was paying for on a recurring basis without realizing it. And some of them were like a couple of subscriptions to like ESPN and Disney and stuff that he was making from 2 different points of view and didn't realize he was doing it.
So he's double subscribed.
Yeah, and in one case, I think it was 3 times to a particular thing. He was getting it through Amazon. He was getting it through Apple Plus or Apple TV Plus. Mm-hmm. Plus, he was paying them directly.
Wow.
So yes, true story there.
That's another big thing is like sometimes we'll subscribe to a thing more than once, not realizing we're already paying. And in fact, I've done that. I actually subscribed to Paramount Plus. And then I tried to get in. I'm like, why? My subscription must have lapsed.
That's exactly what happens.
And then I went, okay, so I'll sign up again. And then this is what I think was on vacation. And then I came and then I realized, oh no, wait, I'm already subscribed to that
through Amazon or through something else.
Exactly, yes. And that was the problem. And so I ended up canceling one of those when I realized. But yeah, it's
insidious.
Bad. They say the average American spends nearly $220 a month on recurring subscriptions, excluding cable and utility bills. So not including, the cable, the phone, that stuff, just the other subscriptions. You think about this, 50 years ago, we weren't paying any of this stuff. None of this existed, so you can see why people have much less income these days, much less disposable income because we're spending a lot of money on things that our parents never paid for in the past. Mm-hmm. It's kind of amazing.
My bank now sends me a little notice, here's the things that are coming up on recurring subscriptions, it looks like, and reminds me,
that's good.
On a particular credit card or a particular account, but not all banks do. And if you do, you want to turn it on so it reminds you, on a regular basis.
So I have a spreadsheet that I keep, and I try to remember every time I subscribe to an app, every time I subscribe to a magazine or anything or service, I put it in this spreadsheet. And every year in January, I go through this spreadsheet and I look, have any of them gone up in price? Have I stopped using any of these and should I cancel them? And and inevitably I catch things that I forgot. I go through my bank statements to look for things that are showing up repeatedly. It used to be called Truebill, but now I think it's Rocket Money. I think because Rocket bought them. That helps you track those things, and they actually promise to either cancel ones you're not using or get you better deals on ones. They do that by taking a cut of whatever savings they get for you. Just, I don't know. I'd rather just cancel. You know what I mean? But it's a way to get help in doing this sort of thing. But yeah, it's really you're spending money you shouldn't have to. It's like it's a fact that Americans are out there. Nearly every American is spending money extra on stuff that they're not using just by on this data.
Well, the worst part is when you have something you know you're going to use it eventually, or you really should be using it, like Weight Watchers or Audible. Like, oh yes, I've got those Audible credits.
Gym membership.
Yeah, Audible credits. I should be using. And what do you mean they expire in a year? You know, stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. Well, we know we're not using it, and we're still paying for it because we feel guilty about canceling it.
Yep.
Right.
like a fitness
you don't want to
app.
lose it.
Right.
You don't want to lose anything.
Exactly. You know, I did that with the Supernatural VR app. I used it every day for a year. And then when we had that time when we were not in our house and I couldn't do VR, and I got out of the habit, and I kept wanting to go back and I just never did. And it's like, I just can't, you know, I gotta
justify it anymore.
I gotta cut my losses and move on.
Hey, they just dropped it to half price.
Oh,
The subscription just went in half.
really?
Uh-oh, he's back.
Yeah.
Get thee behind me. I know I should be doing it.
It is a good app.
It is great. It's a great little workout. Every morning I'd get up and I'd get my blood running and my, you know, get sweating, and it was fun. Yeah. I always enjoyed it. It's a great workout. I need to
It's
get back into it.
$9.99 a month now.
Oh man. Is
Or
that permanent?
$100 a year.
Is that a permanent change?
It's permanent.
Wow. I wonder. Yeah, that's amazing. All right. You may see me on there again. Because that's a $10 I feel good spending, you know, it's as opposed to on some stupid.
Well, it
app.
generates endorphins when you're doing it too.
Yeah, that's right. Get healthy.
But how many subscriptions to whatever streaming service you have? Because yes, I'm going to watch that show.
Right. Exactly. Oh man. I know. I still have Netflix. Like, how much do I watch Cobra Kai on Netflix now? What else am I watching on Netflix that I'm spending $15 a month? I don't know if I should be spending that money anymore.
I'm just about ready to cut it. I really am.
I mean, gosh, like Netflix used to be the thing. I had a whole, I had DVDs from Netflix, you know, back when that's how far back we go. But I'm ready to cut the cord.
You know, the last DVD was shipping today, I think it was, or
was it
a couple of days ago. Yeah.
We talked about that a couple of weeks ago on the show.
Right.
About that. And I talked about how we used to have a warehouse in the next town over.
Yeah.
So I could do a CD a day, basically. I could watch a movie a day. Yep. You know, it was so quick.
That's how I first watched streamed Babylon 5 was via Netflix DVD.
Netflix DVDs.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So our next headline is, this is close to my heart, microchips in the Parmigiano and other ways Europeans are fighting fake food. Now, fake food, in the sense of counterfeit food, is huge business. The odds are, just to throw one out there, is that the Italian olive oil on your shelf right now is not, it's labeled Italian extra virgin olive oil. It probably isn't extra virgin. It might be olive oil. It might not. It might be
Italian. Maybe not.
It might not be Italian.
You're usually pretty safe that it's olive oil.
Let's hope.
Yeah, and there might be a little bit of Italian mixed in there, but
yeah, it might be corn oil with some food coloring. That's the sad thing. So
those stuff like cheese too, like, oh yeah, this is Parmesan. Oh yeah, it's Parmesan with a little bit of Parmesan with some other cheese in there, and good
and
enough.
Romano.
Wood pulp. So it's big business, and so that means that there's a lot of money in preventing counterfeit food. And so the producers, among others, the producers of Parmigiano Reggiano cheese, the undisputed king of cheeses, by the way, is that what they're doing is they're putting these tiny microchips in the big wheels of cheese to track them, to make sure that they can be scanned all along the production chain from where they're made, from the milk essentially, all the way to the markets where it's sold, and they're tracking it along the process. And the chips themselves are pretty cool. They're called P chips, which is an unfortunate name. They're not for something that goes in food. They're made by this. Yeah, they're made by the Chicago company. They use blockchain technology to authenticate the data that can trace the cheese as far back as the producer of the milk used. They are, they can be stored in like liquid nitrogen for up to a year. I think it's years of storage in liquid nitrogen, so near zero, absolute zero. So they can withstand extreme heat and cold. They can be read through ice. They outperform RFID chips, which are even larger, and they're not as fragile, and they, can survive for years. They don't run out of power for years, and they're more legible than QR codes, which they've tried to use as well. And so there's this label that every wheel gets made of casein, which is a milk protein, but it's this label, a plaque that gets attached to every wheel, and the chip is inside that. So they're not putting chips inside the cheese.
You've just relieved me a lot, because I didn't want to eat those chips.
Yeah.
those are some chips and dip I don't want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No P chips.
I was thinking
in my
cancer.
Yeah. I know, with all the COVID conspiracists who thought they were injecting us with microchips in our vaccines. No. So people aren't consuming the chips. The chips are in the outside casing. And then a handheld reader scans it. But this is just one way that they're using this technology to track things like wine and feta cheese, Parma ham, and all these other wonderful, wonderful products that are just so good, and to make sure we're getting the real thing. I mean, I like the fact that the wine bottles are also getting some of this tech on them to track them. That this is a real bottle of champagne from the Champagne region of France. That sort of thing.
Right.
Well, cool. I can see it expanding onto other things, because I've been noticing, like, if you get grape tomatoes, they will have production codes on them for tracking where the tomatoes came from. So I could see that label again on the outside of the packaging, but that label having something like one of these chips as well
would sure help when they're trying to track down cases of botulism or
E. coli,
all of those things that we see reports on, but they don't know how to track it back. Well, now we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is they've gotten these chips to be so inexpensive but reliable. That's really the trick. And so that they can be in lots of different things. So tracking things everywhere. Smart tags for your food. And then our last headline is, this is speaking of food or things that shouldn't be eaten. The headline's from the website 404 Media. It says, life or death, AI generated mushroom foraging books are all over Amazon. Okay, so for a while now, ever since ChatGPT came out, unscrupulous people have been using ChatGPT and other similar large language models to create shovelware books. This has been a problem on Amazon self-publishing, where people create low-value books that they throw on by the thousands, and if it doesn't cost them hardly anything, and if just a handful of people buy it, they're making money, right? So that's the thing. So some people have made books generated by these large language models, and some of them have been about mushroom foraging, which, if you know anything, you know about mushrooms and wild mushrooms, is you don't eat just any mushroom, no matter how confident you are. I don't care. I would never eat a mushroom that I pick in the wild. I want an expert, this guy who's been doing it for years and isn't dead yet. Like that guy. I'm never going to go from a book, and this is going to kill somebody. That's the worry. What do y'all think? Does Amazon have a responsibility here?
Yeah, it's, we've talked about it before, about how AI is notoriously unreliable when it comes to absolute facts.
Yep.
We've talked about how, what was it you did, Dom, that ChatGPT thought there was something that it it said you
Oh,
worked
Where you
somewhere.
lived or something
Right, when
like
I asked
that?
it about myself, yeah. Oh, I should
Yeah.
look that up again because it was pretty funny. Yeah, there was I asked it who is Domenico Bettinelli, and it came up with all kinds of weird stuff.
I mean, it
Like,
had it right that you went to this university and you lived in this place and you worked for these organizations, and then it just went off the rails.
yeah, it really did. It like the weird, the
You know, and
weirdest.
so that's one example of, yes, Chat GPT has a lot of information. You can ask it questions and it will give you good answers, but you've got to realize in the middle of those good answers is garbage. That it's either picked up or it's just kind of how it learning model worked. It kind of worked its way in there.
Well, and
So you have to be
it
very,
feeds on
very careful.
fiction as well as fact. I mean, you
Yep.
know.
And it doesn't know the difference. And it again, it is a language model. It's not when you think of AI, we think of, Jetsons robot, Rosie the robot on Jetsons, or
Right.
The
Artificial
Terminators.
intelligence, really
real
intelligent.
artificial
Yeah.
intelligence. This is just it takes a bunch of information and can fit it together into something that looks logical.
So the problem is with Amazon, I mean, a lot of people can write books and they're fiction. So how is it going to tell the difference between fiction and a generated thing that has misinformation in it?
There are tools out there that have figured out keys or little clues to how
If
fingerprints,
it's,
if
to
you
say
will,
it's AI,
of AI.
yeah, right.
Right. The
And
article
Amazon
talks
might have
about
to
one. Yeah.
Yeah, Amazon might have to invest in those tools to run everything that's self-published through before they put it on their store.
Well, and you can't do it wholesale because I actually have a client who did some computer generated AI art and then did some poems based upon that art that were generated by AI because he was interested in the process and so he sold them, and I bought one. But so how do they discriminate between what's being sold as true versus sold as fiction?
I think it has to do with the content. Like, what is the book about? If it's a nonfiction book about a topic that could be dangerous, health related, that's an area where I think they crack down. But a work of fiction, a work of creative writing, creative art, like visual art, I don't think that. Yeah.
Here's a novel idea. YouTube, Amazon, hear me out on this. Have a human actually look at it before you ban it or decide to approve it. If there's a question, actually
Right.
human being taking a look at it. I know that's a radical idea.
I know
But could they
don't.
have missed the particular mushroom problem? Somebody just looking at it thinking, okay, here's a guide to foraging mushrooms. Could they have missed that?
Possible, but again, if you're using like the AI fingerprinting,
That's true.
that might
Yes.
have caught it even before it got
Right.
to that point.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, the article talks about a program called Zero GPT, which estimates how much of any particular section has been written by an AI generator. And one of the funny things they found is that all of the books about mushrooms follow a specific format. They all start with a short piece of anecdotal fiction about a hobbyist. Stella had always been interested in the natural world and was fascinated by the many unknowns of the plant world. She'd heard about the power of a special type of mushroom known as psilocybin mushrooms.
That's what we're getting here.
Yeah.
yep.
That's the kind of mushroom they're looking for, not my spaghetti a la mushrooms.
yeah, not the fungi. So it's kind of scary that people are putting this sort of thing out there, for one thing, that you could keep people killed. It's kind of scary that people would be buying these. Like, if you're looking for a book about mushroom foraging, A, don't mushroom forage out of a book, but B, vet it. Make sure it's from a real person who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah. Well, this kind of stuff has been, as you said before, Dom, this stuff has been a problem even before ChatGPT. I mean, it's been, there were writing farms that literally they existed to have people just write garbage and self-publish it.
Yeah. So,
Formula writing
Yep.
in the worst case.
right. This is just automating all that. So be careful out there, folks. Be careful. Go to the store and get some nice, morels or something off the store shelf. Make a nice pasta. All right. That'll do it for our headlines. Let's move on to our picks of the week. And Father Cory, you're up first.
So I'm going with a game again. This is one that it was on sale. Actually, it's sort of on. It's about 15% off for a bundle. It's called For the King, and it's a game on Steam. So it'll play on any of the Steam platforms, including the Steam Deck. And it's basically a role playing game. Like a tabletop role playing, turn-based tabletop role playing. It's got kind of the more 16-bit kind of blocky graphics, but it's a lot of fun. You have combat, you have exploration. Of course, you've got your quests that you're doing. Go find your princess is another castle type stuff. And it's a lot of fun. I haven't been able to play with it as much as I want to. But like I said, I got it on sale, so you can watch it. It's actually been out for about 5 years now. And they've got expansions and all that, but it's if you want, tabletop role playing, but either can only do it solo, you don't have any friends to do it with, or you can do this also via the network. You can do it over the internet with friends and whatever. And it is real time, but it is turn based. So
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun and exploration and building up your characters and your party and all that. It's worth checking out.
Windows, Mac, and Steam Deck. So
yep,
yeah, the whole
so everything.
Nice. Well, something for everybody. I love it when a little bit for us Mac users out there.
Linux as well.
Yep. It runs great on
friendly. Okay.
Yeah.
It runs great on my Linux side.
Yeah.
Right.
And of course I'm very clear. I like cross-platform. Proton helps, but if you can run it native on the Linux side, because that's what Steam Deck is. So
right, the Steam Deck is a Linux computer, as we talked about last week. All right, Pat, you're up next.
Well, I have so many people that are telling me my Wi-Fi keeps dropping off. My printer keeps saying it's offline. I can't stream a movie because it's stuttering, etc. And a lot of the older houses have a single router that is trying real hard to get across the house and really can't. Or you have somebody who's got an upstairs, downstairs, or a really long house, just really spread out. So I've been using some of the mesh products. I happen to be using a lot of the Google mesh products, but there are Orbi and Eero that are quite comparable and comparably priced, and that are consumer models. There are also are some business models, but I just wanted to reiterate that I really like Google mesh, and there's a couple of different models of it. There's the oldest one, which is only covers like 1,200 square feet. And then there's the next model up covers 2,400 square feet. And then you can have additional little satellite hockey pucks or whatever that you place across the house to spread that signal out. And now the newest one is Wi-Fi 6 compatible. And so in fact, it's not cross-compatible with the other older ones. It's, you basically put that in and it's super fast. And but they're all from Google, and they're easy to set up. There's an app on your phone, and they have a lot of help online, etc.
Very nice. Yeah, I have the Eero mesh, and it works great. Get coverage all across my house. Really like it.
I'll have to look into this because my house is small, and so the router I have, which isn't 6 capable, but my garage is far enough away
Outside
where it gets kind of
domain.
sketchy. Well, it gets a little sketchy towards the edge of it. So
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Right.
mesh does help, and I think Google is pretty good, pretty well priced on that.
Yep.
So
Definitely.
now the only thing I've run into is printers that are wireless printers sometimes don't work well with mesh, and I think the mesh manufacturers are beginning to recognize that and change some things, and maybe the printer manufacturers too. But if you have that situation where it keeps dropping off of the printer, then most of the meshes have a Ethernet port that you could plug the printer in directly if it supports it, and then it says, "Oh, now I know where my signal's coming from."
Oh, right. That's a good point. Because you know what? My laser printers always I'm always having to reinstall the driver on my Mac.
That's exactly what happened with my Canon, and it ended up being that if I plug it into the router, the little satellite unit, then it can find that, and that finds the network. But it doesn't have a hopping different IP address or a MAC address to find.
Right.
I just thought it was printers being printers because I hate printers because they're
I know they're
sent
awful.
from hell to torture us.
Printers and passwords are what I spend most of my time on.
Oh yeah.
So my pick this week is an app that I got to basically replace Evernote. Evernote was my second brain. It was my love. It was fantastic. I used it all the time. I started using Evernote back in 2010, I think, 9, maybe even, way back. And I put everything in it. I had tens of thousands of notes in Evernote. And then the last couple of years, they've kind of gone in a different business direction. And they're becoming a different kind of product, and it just wasn't working. The straw that broke the camel's back was that they changed to this new kind of app that doesn't work with scripting or anything like that. It was just didn't work for me. So I finally cut my losses, and I went out and bought DevonThink. And DevonThink is like Evernote in that it is a big repository for everything. Basically, you can use it like a database. But what it does is it connects to the files that are stored on your computer. It doesn't put them inside a proprietary database like Evernote does. These are all just files on your computer, and it points to them. But there are automations. It has automations and rules that are inside DevonThink that is part of its program. But you can also use external scripting and various automations and searching is wonderful in it. You can search for things. The one thing it doesn't do that Evernote did do, which you can kind of do if you work around it, but it doesn't do as well, is I can't use it on my phone because it's files that live on my computer. It's not in the cloud. And that's a big difference. Now there is a DevonThink to go app.
Well, what that also means that it only can live on one computer, and you couldn't have it spread across, two different machines either.
That's right. But you can create multiple databases, and so I have like a work-based one, and I have a personal one, and all those sorts of things like that. But DevonThink is a huge program, and there's so much it can do. People use it for research, for major scientific research or for academic research, and it's a very powerful program. But you can use it for just about anything. And so I'll mention the program itself, DevonThink, but also and it's a one-time purchase. It's not a subscription. You just buy it. You can buy upgrades, but you own it. But I also want to mention that there's a course you can get to learn DevonThink, if you really want to, get started, from David Sparks, Mac Sparky he's called, and one of his Mac Sparky field guides, and I'll put a link in the show notes for DevonThink. It's right. He has a DevonThink one. Oh, I'm not seeing it, so maybe he was talking about it coming out. I'll have to look for it. Oh no, there it is. DevonThink field guide. Okay, so I was right. So it's 8.5 hours of a video tutorial walking you through DevonThink and how to use it. So it's definitely worthwhile if you think this is an area you want to go and you want to really start to use this very, very heavily. But DevonThink. And
Mac only.
Mac only. Yep. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. Thought it might be obvious, but yeah, it's Mac only.
Well, when you said Mac Sparky, that kind of gave me a clue.
Yes, sorry. I should have said that up front, but yeah, it is Mac only. Very good. So that's our picks of the week, and that's our show. We would love to hear from you about what you thought about anything we discussed this time. You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology, or our Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to technology@sqpn.com, or visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. You'll find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at starquest.fm/TEC228. That's right, the show is number 228. Follow The Secrets of Tech in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, for now, Google's shutting Google Podcasts down, Spotify, TuneIn, we'll talk about that later, your favorite podcast app, or on our YouTube channel, where you should also hit the bell to get notifications. And until next time, Father Cory Sticha, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
Thank you, Dom.
Pat Scott, thank you as well.
Good to be here.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.